What's your monthly budget? Will you be providing a trade-in? Possibly paying for cash, finance, lease? Those are some key questions that car dealers will guaranteed to ask you if you're shopping on the car lot. I've been around for dozens of years in the industry selling cars, and I can tell you now specifically there are some key questions that the car dealers and salespeople will ask you to try to not just pick you apart, but also to get the upper hand and sell you a car for more money. Don't answer any of these. As a matter of fact, I've got the key questions you're guaranteed to be asked. I'm going to share those with you and how you should respond. For example, is your monthly budget. This is one of the most famously infamous questions that they're going to ask you. Why they're trying to figure that out is because they're going to try to get you into as an expensive vehicle as possible. By simply asking what your monthly payment is, they know every manufacturer, every sales team now knows that they have some flexibility. They know that whether you buy a car for 4 years, take out a loan for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and sometimes more. So now they have a flexibility. So if you come in there and you share a number, you say, I need to be within $500 a month. They go back and they say, outside of anything like an exotic car, like a Ferrari, they're going to likely fit you into that $400 a month budget or that $500 a month budget. They might come back at you and say, well, you know what? We can do 500 months. It's only 7 years. Here's your interest rates. It's 4.9%. We got you in there at 505. And then you feel good. And they're trying to get you pinned down and sell you that car. See, the beauty is, even on a car that's $30,000, they're still going to lock you into a $500 a month payment. What they could do is start fattening up some extras. They could add in some extras, maybe a car they have on the lot that's already outfitted with things like roof racks and paint protection film, and they'll sort of blend that into the cost. Lo and behold, they'll still get you into that $500 a month payment. So instead, hit the brakes. What you do want to say is, no, give it to me straight, okay? What is the out-the-door price? What's the out-the-door price is the cash price of the vehicle, plus any administration fees, as well as taxes. That's it. No extras, just straight up, what's the price of that vehicle? But because those are some key questions they're guaranteed to ask you, and you basically just want to rebut. Not give them that answer. Don't give them that budget. Rather, just say, look, I just want to know the out the door and I'll figure out those monthly payments for myself. Another question they're guaranteed to ask you, will you be financing? Perhaps a lease? Maybe even cash? What are your thoughts? Well, there was a time when they used to say cash is king, and I truly believe that is, particularly in the used car market. That being said, it never gets you the best deal at the car lot, ever. Because cash means that they have no opportunity to fatten up the deal with extra interest charges. I mean, they might be able to sell you on a finance, of course, with an interest charge of, say, 4.9 or 7.9%. And quite often, they'll look at your credit score and they'll say, you know what, well, you only qualify for 5.9%. That's the best rate based on your credit score, when in actuality, they're getting that rate at 4.9 and they're going to fatten it up. So it gives them an opportunity to put in an extra point or two sometimes on some of the interest charges. So they're making money there. So they can, at that point, negotiate on the front of the vehicle. But by you giving up your cards and saying, look, I'm not out of the question. I'd consider financing. I probably won't lease because have no way to really write this off as a business. Although I get it. Some people like to lease because, some people feel that if you're swapping out vehicles every 2 or 3 years, it saves you from, you never go into negative equity, which is a key issue that a lot of people are having today. It basically wipes that problem out. And as well, cash. Again, don't admit, maybe you have cash, maybe you don't. You're almost better off taking the financing and coming back later and paying off cash. As long as there's no exclusions or fine line in the print of any of those finances, whether it's through your own bank or as well, whether it's through the dealership giving you that rate that you can't pay in advance. In other words, just being able to take out that, getting the best price with financing that they might provide if the rates are as good or better than your own personal bank rates, which you should have pre-shopped before even going to the dealership, then in fact, you take that, as long as they say there's no penalties in paying it off early, you take the finance, you get the better deal, and then you pay it off cash after, or you continue to make your payments. But never necessarily give your whole hands. Never tell them it's cash financing. Say, I'm kind of curious, what are the rates you're offering up? Any special kickbacks, incentives? Any thoughts that you might be able to provide me? Any extra incentive to buy? If I take the in-house financing, what does that look like? What is the cash deal? what is the finance deal and know what you have in front of you, because ultimately, usually you're going to get a much cheaper deal, or you're going to get thousands off if you choose the financing. Saying you're paying cash is usually the fast track to getting the worst deal possible. But anyway, those are the concepts. You don't necessarily want to spill your beans. Let them believe that you might consider their in-house financing and then move on. The next question, guaranteed they're going to ask you if you have a trade. Every single time I've dealt with a car dealer, they're always going to ask, do you have something to trade, another car that you want to trade in on this? And while there are some benefits in trading a vehicle, particularly if you own it flat out, you're not seeing negative equity, because you never want to roll over negative equity. You're going to continue paying till the cows come home. So never do that. But if you've got an older vehicle, maybe, but it's still got some value to it and the dealer can recognize that, don't necessarily say you're trading in. Don't ever spill the beans either there. You never want to put all those cards on the table. Rather, you could say, well, I'm thinking about maybe selling or trading this vehicle in. I was thinking about selling it privately. I was thinking about maybe trading it, but we'll talk about that later. I guess let's talk about your price. Can you get me the best price? What's the price on your vehicle? And we'll talk about mine later. I mean, at the end of the day, if you get me a good price, we'll work together on this. You get me a good price, then maybe we'll look at mine. And if it works for both of us and I'm happy with that, even though it's probably going to be a bit of a ripoff, because likely trade-ins, we know that we're typically trading it in at something more like wholesale price. As long as we're happy on both ends, then maybe we'll trade. But for now, we need to work on your price, your sale price. Get me the out-the-door price. Get me the best price. No extras, no muss, no fuss. I'd like to know what the best deal is you can offer me, both the financing as well as the out-the-door price for this car. Definitely let me know, and then we'll talk about whether my trade is coming into the conversation or not. Another question sometimes you're posed with is, how much cash are you going to put down on the deal? Then you could basically say, look, what does that have anything to do with this? Quite often now you have to do something. You have to show some commitment. We know that the banks need to see some money down, because when you're talking about the loan to value of some of these vehicles, sometimes now people are paying over sticker. So the idea of having more money down just looks like you've got more skin in the game and you're more likely to get a better deal or some kind of better discount. But that has no impact on what the dealer should or shouldn't know. The only thing that I've seen recently where dealers sort of have a standardized approach is they say, for Toyota's a specific brand, well, they say, look, we need $250 down, that's it, fully refundable, no muss, no fuss, no questions asked. When the car shows up, we'll call you, and that goes towards, or we'll just give you that money back. So ultimately, other than just showing a little skin in the game, a very small monetary amount to get the game going, to get the game started, just to show that there's a little bit of commitment, is really all you need. But in terms of deposit or how much money down, it's really none of their business. That's something you probably want to speak more with your bank to say how much you want. And of course, not only that from borrowing perspective, but also the finance manager or the finance people at the dealership. If you choose to take their finance rates, then you can have that conversation about more or less, because sometimes you just make a decision, because sometimes this is happening after the fact. Again, get your out the door price, figure out what that price of that vehicle is, work it out in terms of your monthly payments at that point, and determine whether A, you're satisfied with the trade-in value is, and B, how much you may or may not want to put as deposit. If all of a sudden you're not trading your vehicle in because you realize that they're not giving you a fair value on your trade, you might just say, the heck with it, I'll trade it privately. Rather, do that, take it privately, go sell it through Marketplace, go sell it through local classifieds, Auto Trader, and what have you. But then at that point, you may need a little bit more money down, in which case you don't need to tell the salesperson that. You strictly need to manage that with the finance manager or the banker. That's the only people that need to know. Another question, hey, we've got this great deal this month. Actually, it's a loyalty deal, and we're giving it to every customer right now that shows that they love our product. All you have to do is say you love our product, and you now get the deal. And the deal, it's only for $1,750, you get this extended maintenance program. We'll do your annual servicing, your oil changes for the first 3 years. We'll give you paint protection film, as well as we'll give you key fob protection. How does that sound for $1,750? Oh, you want to know the monthly payment version of that? Okay, well, that's $38 a month. just strictly added on? What do you think about that? Well, that's a question that you clearly should not be answering in its entirety. What you do need to do is maybe turn around and ask them another question. Well, I don't want any of those other items. I'm good with my own maintenance. I know the service plans, they draw them out now, and I'm only going to get through like 2 or 3 oil changes in that. It makes no sense financially there. Paint protection film, maybe. How much are these items? Can you break them out for me personally, singly? I'd like to know what each one of those items costs. If in fact, of course, they don't want to do that, and quite often they'll say, well, I'll tell you what, $17.50, we can do it. Bottom of the line, the manager said to advocate, and you know what? I can offer you this deal today, $1,500. So all of a sudden, now you have a deal that seems too hard to resist. You know, it's almost like timeshares. You get into these environments sometimes with these finance managers, and they're trying to pitch some of these extended products. It almost feels like a fast talk, and then you've got another person coming in, and the manager comes in and says, hi folks, how you doing today? They introduce themselves, you feel warm and fuzzy, and they try to continually push other new products. But the reality is, as I've said before, don't get pulled into that. Extended maintenance plans, service plans, most of those items are usually not going to be value added. You're not going to get your money out of that. Clearly, if you break it down and you draw it out separately, remember, they're in the business to make money. And at the dealer level, that's where they have control to make more money. See, the OEM, they're selling that product, that car, for sticker price, manufacturer's suggested retail. Now, you might pay a little bit more over MSRP, you might pay a little less than MSRP, or you might pay sticker completely. But wherever that lands, that's what the manufacturer suggested. Now, we know there's also invoice pricing, and there's usually some rebates that come from the manufacturer to the dealer as well. So there's even sometimes lower than invoice pricing. But that's a margin that it's very difficult to find those exact numbers. All we say is you're somewhere between that 5 and 8%, maybe 10% below MSRP, and that's sort of the target area. But with that said, they're always looking to capture more money. And that's another way. These service plans, selling you extras, key fob protection, rim, dent protection, scratch, you name it, glass repair or replacement. All of those things are extras they're going to try to add in, especially when you're in the finance office. So don't take any of it. If you want and you're curious and it's a matter of convenience, ask them to break it out individually. If it makes sense, buy it. But generally, most cases, it's simply not worth it. You're better off going outside and getting your maintenance plans, dealing with some of those extras, those third-party shops to get them to do it instead. You're going to save thousands of dollars. And don't forget to check out that really popular video about what happens to those new cars that don't happen to sell when you're seeing all these cars filling up on the lots. There is actually an end game for those vehicles. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon. Catch you then, everybody. Bye-bye.